Hey everyone, this is John and Nick with How to Film Weddings, and we are on episode 3 of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Nick, say hello.
Hello.
All right, that's all you need right now, Nick. I am starting this thing out today. Nick has had the pleasure of starting out the last two, but we were chatting this last week and we were just talking about some big milestones that we've been hitting, and Nick and I started talking about the fact that he just sold his highest package ever. His prices have been going up, and I was texting back and forth. We decided, hey, it'd be kind of cool to walk through kind of where you started, Nick, and how you've gotten to where you've gotten. So I think it'd be cool just to hear a little bit more from you. When did you start? Where were you when you started? How much are you charging for weddings now? Where did you start? Because I do think a lot of people out there that are listening are newer, or they're trying to figure out how to raise their prices, or should they raise prices, or how do they get business. And so the point of today is just kind of show a real life example of someone that started 5-6 years ago and is now charging a good amount of money for their wedding. So Nick, I'm going to hand it over to you just to kind of maybe start by telling us where you were when you started, when was that, how much you got paid for your first wedding, all those kinds of things. So there you go.
Okay, sounds good. So my job before I was a full-time wedding videographer, I was actually a youth minister. I worked for a church. I started that in 2006, and kind of early on with that, I've always kind of liked graphic design, that kind of stuff. And then my wife actually took an After Effects class in college she was going for graphic design, and that kind of led me into the video world. So I just started playing and doing some simple church kind of stuff. The church camp we went to, the director saw that I had made a little something stupid, and he was like, hey, do you want to be my video guy at camp? And my wife was a photographer, so we had a Canon 5D Mark II, and I was like, sure, I'll do that. I went to camp. I fell in love with doing video, and my wife was like I said, a wedding photographer, so I kind of already had an in, which was really nice. And I filmed my first two weddings, I think it was September 2012 and then December of 2012, both of those for free for my wife's brides. So I didn't charge them anything. I ended up losing money on those simply because I didn't have very much gear, and I had to rent stuff and buy a few little things here before I could really start going.
So, I think that's important to take note. Same thing for me. The first few weddings I did were super cheap, as in what I got paid. But the point of those weddings that you want to find somebody that really could use a wedding film that you could really build a reel. And so not having anything to show people, you might be good at what you do, but if you don't have any weddings, so that's crucial. And again, I wouldn't say, hey, do a year for free or do, 25 weddings for free. But having a couple of those, you said you had 2 of those in December of 2012. When did you get those edited, and what was the response? What'd you do with those films from there?
Yeah, so really kind of where this started is I filmed at camp, and I was like, I could do this. I really like doing this. What I want to do with it. And Rob Adams, who many of you should know who he is. I consider him kind of one of the, godfathers of modern wedding video. He's been around, he started way back, in the 80s or early 90s when it was really cheesy stuff. And he kind of introduced me through his Creative Live course into this. And me, like so many people out there, I'm sure, watched that and you thought, I could do that. I don't know. To me, it seems like the wedding profession is just one of these professions where people just see something and they're like, I could do that. So they do. And then we're professionals because we decided we wanted to do that. So I kind of went off on a tangent and I forgot what you asked me.
That's okay. People do that to me all the time. I was asking just kind of what you did with those 2 edits, when you got those, right. That kind of thing.
So I knew that I wanted to launch, and initially my company name was Nick Miller Films. Very original.
Creative. I like it.
And I knew that I wanted to launch my website and everything in October of 2012, sometime before November. And I filmed that one at the end of September in 12. And so I edited it as fast as I could, which was a 3-minute edit. And I mean, it literally took me 3.5 weeks of a lot of work for a 3.5 minute edit, just because, I didn't know what I was doing. And so I officially launched Nick Miller Films in October of 2012. I used that video just right in center of my website. I think I had a package that was like 3 hours of coverage, including your ceremony, for like $300. And then an all day kind of 10-hour package that was, I think I started it at 1,000. Yeah.
And I think it's a cool point to note right there that you don't have to have it all figured out at the beginning. And I know that a lot of people see, Rob Adams, or they're seeing Matt Johnson, or seeing people on these groups, and they've got these companies that they've had for a decade, and they're like, I don't even know where to start. I think that a lot of times people think they have to do everything right before they get going. And to be honest, sometimes the best thing to do is have a goal and start. And so you learn how to edit, you learn how to do these things, you learn how to package yourself as pricing, all that good stuff. So anyway, just want to throw that in there too.
Yeah, and a thing that I learned that I preach to other people when they're getting started is your first wedding video is not going to look like my 100th, right? You shouldn't compare yourself to these people who have been doing it for 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years, because you're just not there yet. Can you get there? Absolutely. But it's just going to take time and energy to work it up, to get higher prices, to book better weddings, or whatever.
Exactly. Right. So you did these 2 weddings. You did one, you get the edit done in 3.5 weeks. The couple, what is their response? What do you do with it? Is it invigorating? Do they love it? What do they think?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think I didn't want to be like super pushy. I think I sent it to them and they didn't respond to me right away.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, that's the best.
I was like, oh man, which that's just now I'm at my point in my business now where if they don't say something after like a day, I send them another email. Hey, did you see this? Like, I don't care, just want to make sure and communicate that. So I waited a while and they wrote back and they, oh, we love it. We really like it. I was proud of it, because it was something that I had done. It wasn't like the best review in the world or anything like that, but they got a free wedding video and it helped kickstart my business. So I think it worked out really well. The second one that I filmed for free, that one actually turned out a lot better. Like I offered them, like it was something stupid, like a 2-minute video and a 10-minute video, and their entire ceremony, toast and all of that, dances, everything all together, which was actually my package for quite a long time. And I can't believe that that's what I just automatically gave people, because it was awful to edit. But that one went, they were very excited. They were very happy. And their video, actually, because they went to church with one of our prominent wedding planners in town, she saw it, and that kind of opened some doors for me to film my first paid wedding. I want to say that the bride spent almost $100,000 on her wedding, for my very first paid wedding that I did.
Yeah, that's huge.
So, which is just amazing for me to think about now, seeing where other people kind of have to drudge through and go through. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time and got it in my video in front of the right eyes.
And I'll say, like, if you were so, torn to get going and like didn't have it all figured out, like, you did this ceremony edit, you did this 10-minute edit, you did this 2-minute, you're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and like whatever sticks, but you just never know whose eyes are going to see this film. Even if your film only gets 100 views on Facebook, one of those people might be a high-end event planner in town. And so that obviously was a win for you. And I think that the point there from me is, don't just be so paralyzed by your, the paralysis from analysis kind of thing to get going. It's not going to be perfect. You might have to do a free wedding or a cheap wedding, but you will learn so much just by going through that process that you'll get better, and you can fine tune and you can make it even better. So the next thing, you're talking about your first wedding. When was that? Like, how long later after the December wedding? How much did you get paid? Did you do that full?
Yeah. So I started it wasn't very long after I filmed that first one, and I posted on Facebook, that, hey, I'm starting this business and here's my first video. And a girl I went to high school with, who I was Facebook friends with, but I don't think I'd actually spoken to her since like 10th grade, So, I mean, we're 8 years, 10 years, after me actually speaking to her. She sees that and she said, hey, I'm getting married in Kansas City. What would it cost for you to do this? So, I mean, I had one 3.5-minute video and she saw it. And then that was my first paid one. Now, it didn't happen for basically a year, but she was my first paid client, to do this wedding for her. And my whole portfolio was a 3.5-minute video that, was your first one.
And what did you charge her and what did she get?
I want to say that hers, and I thought I was charging her a ton of money. It was my top package, which was more than I would ever think anyone would pay. It was like $1,400. And she got a 2-minute teaser, and I think it was a 13-minute long feature.
Okay.
With
13,
with
lucky
ceremony,
13. Yeah.
With ceremony, with toasts, with dances, with all of that kind of stuff. And I think I was floored that she agreed to pay me $1,400.
Yeah. There's that initial like, holy crap, I can't believe that I'm going to get paid this much to shoot this wedding. Like, you think that you're just going to shoot it and it's going to just all fall together. It's going to take you like 10 or 15 hours and you're going to get paid like $1,500 and you're going to be rolling in the money. Now, I remember that with my first one. I think we did $750, and I mean, I worked for a month on it. But yes, like, so $1,200. I want to fast forward a little bit. So when did you start like raising that? How'd you start doing that? Because I think that'll be helpful to the listeners that are like at the beginning or maybe in the middle or, trying to work themselves up towards wherever they want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because my wife was a photography in photography, she was watching stuff, which I don't even know if people even know of Creative Live anymore. If people see stuff on there, but whenever Creative Live came out, it was made kind of by photographers to help other photographers learn the tricks of the trade and learn the business and how to shoot better and how to edit, like just everything kind of encompassing photography. Since then, it's really gone into everything basically in the creative world. There's video stuff, design stuff, all sorts of things in there. But in one of the videos that my wife bought was from Jasmine Star, which at her peak as a photographer, she was in Southern California, and I believe her base package was like $10,000, and all that covered was her showing up for 6 hours to shoot the wedding. Like, it didn't include anything else.
Right.
And so whenever she was talking about kind of her process, how she became a $10,000 per wedding photographer, she said, every third wedding I shot, I raised my prices $300. Now, it wasn't every third wedding she booked. It was after every third wedding she shot. And then I think it was 3 bookings, maybe, like if she had 3 bookings, then after she had completed 3 shoots so that she was getting more experience, like she wasn't just raising it like that. And so so that's exactly what I started doing. Every kind of 3 weddings that I shot, whenever I had started book, I just raised it $300. So I went from $1,000 to $1,200 pretty quick. Like maybe after that, that first free one I did, or my second free one that I did when I already had a couple booked. But then every 3, I went up $300. And by 2014, all the weddings I had booked were at $2,000.
And you started in 2012.
And I started in 2012. So I basically raised my prices $1,000 in a year and a half.
Okay. And I think of note here, especially in America and around the world really, but like basically being able to get things immediately, to grow your business fast. It's all, you click a button, you get something. And as a small business owner and building your business, you really need to be focusing on not just like the 3-month plan. I know you need to eat, I know you need to make money, but over 12 months, over 24 months, you went from 1,000 to 2,000, in a 2-year window of time, if I'm hearing that right. And that is a huge, you're doubling your cost that you're providing services for in that amount of time. And I think a lot of new people see all these people charging a lot of money and think, oh, well, next year I'll be good enough to charge this. And I'll throw it out there. I don't think that like my films are the best films in the industry by any means, but what I've done, to build our company to be able to charge what we charge has been just really developing relationships, your contact list, and your brand itself. And so like as you're building this, how is your brand evolving? What are you trying to put out there? Who are you trying to showcase your work to? Is it anybody still at this point? I know when I got going, it was just like anybody that will pay me money, I will film their wedding. Where were you at this? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I initially, when I started Nick Miller Films, I started and I had this logo that a guy I went to college with. I had him design it for like $100. It was pretty simple. It had my name, and then it had like these, if you push the two keys next to the P on your keyboard, those little brackets, not the curly ones, but it was Nick Miller Films, and it just had like two brackets on either side. Like it was super simple. And then about a year and a half in, we changed our logo, and it was more kind of hand done. It was very, I really enjoyed how it looked. And, because we were kind of going for more of a kind of handcrafted DIY, maybe kind of look, because we didn't really define who our bride was, right? We didn't really know who our couple was. And then in, I want to say 2000 summer, fall of 2016, maybe it was 15. No, it was 16. We redid our logo again. And this one, I really compared it to a high-end hotel logo. Like that's kind of the feel for it, because we decided that our couple was a high-end bride. And so we wanted everything to reflect that. And we were in good with several planners. And so that's kind of how we geared it and how we went about it. It wasn't until I actually did a mentorship with David at Forestry Film in Southern California, which he's an awesome resource. If you guys ever get a chance to talk or get a hold of any of the forestry educational material, I highly recommend it. But he kind of got me to see that the high-end bride was not my client. Like I thought it was, but then when I sat down and I figured out who my client was, what I wanted them to be about, they were not my ideal client. Now, if we get a high-end wedding, am I going to shoot that? Well, sure, if they want me, but those are not the ones that I am actively searching for.
Right. You were talking a little bit about like you were working with some planners and some different things, but at this point, I think it's very interesting to take note of basically what you experience in the first couple of years, how important it is to be connecting with other vendors in that time. Did you do anything specifically to connect, or did you just miss it, or what'd you do?
So, all right, so I kind of got in with a planner early on, and she, for good or for worse, is one of those ones, whenever she finds her people, they're her people, mm-hmm. Right? And luckily I was good enough, or I don't know if I was good enough, I was lucky enough for a while, I was, one of her people. And so I got referrals and stuff from her. And, she did, have you ever heard of the Knot Wedding? The mm-hmm. NOT wedding. It's now, I think, called the Big Fake Wedding. Anyway, yeah. She in town ran that event, and I did that for a couple years. And, so I was kind of looking at, okay, how can I maybe do some stuff to, I don't want to say get on her good side. I mean, I wanted to be on her good side, but at the same time, do stuff that would be equally beneficial, but not in a skeezy way.
Sure.
And, do what I could. But then, around 2015, my wife and I, for whatever reason, we kind of just said, we don't want to break our backs for these other people in town and because we were doing stuff for others, but we weren't seeing any return. And I think negatively, we decided to kind of stop trying to do that, which definitely affected our business because we were not out there. We were not networking. We weren't trying. I thought it was really interesting. This little side note, someone in a wedding videography group earlier this week actually put that it's more important that my brides like my videos than to impress other wedding videographers. Convince me I'm wrong. And Matt Koza said, why can't it be both?
100%.
And the reason that he said that was I know this past year I have booked 5 weddings because I've gotten referrals from other wedding professionals. And I only get those because the work I do and I'm networking with them and I get it, so that time period when we kind of decided to take a step back definitely affected us negatively and it hurt us. So this is probably, 2015, 2016, we were itching up closer to 3,000, that $2,600 mark, $2,800 mark, all of that. And then we something happened and we kind of took a step back and then I couldn't book 2,800. So then I think I dropped it down to like 2,300 because I couldn't book 2,800. And part of that, I think it had to be because of how we were treating, not necessarily we were treating them bad, but we weren't making other vendors and networking and that kind of stuff.
You weren't cultivating the relationship.
Right.
And just making sure that, and that's a huge thing, especially I think that we forget how important that is to just be like somebody that other vendors want to work with and taking just a few extra minutes to hook up a vendor. Like if you're at a wedding venue and, it's new and you can take an extra 10 minutes to get there early and do just a quick venue tour and send them a 1-minute video or, whatever it might be. But the wedding's over, you give them their, a link to download the film so they can share it or whatever that looks like. But just that importance of building those relationships. I mean, you want to refer somebody that you enjoy working with. You get along with a photographer, they do a really good job. You start referring one another and you don't have to go after all of the new business by yourself. And there's nothing better than third-party, credibility. And when it comes down to it, if you hired a wedding planner and they say, oh, you've got to hire Nick with Wild Oak Films, he's the best, it's worth it, and they're saying that, then they've already come into that trusting you as opposed to Googling you, sending in a contact form, how much are your prices, and you have to go through that thing. I mean, the brides that, want to book you and are excited about you, most of them, for me anyway, are coming from other vendors or other relationships or other brides that are really, looking, are really helping push my brand.
I can't tell you how much a recommendation matters. I met with a bride earlier this week and she contacted another video company in town and they were booked and they referred me. And she said, Nick, I like I'm glad I found you because I like you and I like your stuff so much better than them. But 3 of my friends got married and they used this other company. So I contacted them first because my other friends, so she was willing to book this. Now she hadn't seen our work yet, but I'm just saying she was willing to book these other people. I mean, their videos are very high quality, but she was willing to book them based on someone saying, this is my recommendation.
100%. So that's very, very cool. I think where I want to head next would just be talking about kind of that transition. You started talking about you're in the 2,800, you had to back up a little bit. This is somewhere in your second, third year at this point. So a few years back, what did you do to get out of that? When you lowered the prices, what happened? How did you dig up from there?
So we got to, 2,800, 3,000. And I think when that package, when I was close to 2,800, I had a $4,500 package that to me was just no one is going to book this in the world. And I think a couple of people that summer did. But the problem that I was having because I had another full-time job is that it was taking me so stinking long to get their stuff back to them. I mean, I told them 4 to 6 months. And I mean, I was I mean, I was almost 6 months to the day which is way too long, in my opinion, to get someone their wedding video back. 6 months is way too long, especially when I'm working with photographers that are getting their pictures back to them in 4 to 5 weeks. Like it was just way too long. And so I think that I had a couple of things going negatively against me. One, our networking was down. Two, our prices were at the time the most expensive in town. Three, I was just taking a really, really long time to edit. Now, I let all my couples know, hey, I have another job. This is just something I do on the side, that kind of thing. But I don't think that matters to them. Like they might understand that in a meeting, but when they want their video, they want their video. And so we had to peel back. And I think I dropped them down to 2,400. I slowly up into 16 and 17, got them back up to about 3,200 or so. But then this last fall, September of 17, and 18, I was having trouble booking. I think going into 2018, in January, I had 5 for my year. Currently now I'm sitting at like 22 or 23. So, obviously that picked up, but coming into the new year, I just dropped them. And I think one of the reasons, I thought about a la carte kind of menus and charging for ceremony edits on top. So I kind of lower my prices sort of, but make them more if they got all this stuff that everyone got. And it just wasn't working out how I wanted it to. And no one was booking with us. And then I just started thinking, oh, everyone else in town is offering the ceremony edit. Everyone else in town is offering the toasts, which I think they are. I don't know for sure. You just think that. And so you're like, well, why is someone going to spend, $3,000 on me when this company over here who's pretty good, almost as good as we are, is charging $2,500 for basically the same thing. So why would they do that? So I really struggled with kind of the bounce back and up and down of pricing. And in summer of 2017, I left my ministry job to do wedding video work full time. And so there was kind of this added stress on top of all of that of, oh, now I have to provide for my family and, what am I going to do? So I felt more compelled to lower my prices significantly, $400 or $500, just so people would book us so I would have work to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, just that bridge, getting the boat close enough to the dock to go from part-time to full-time, without falling in the water is a hard transition, and you want to make sure that you have enough money for your family. You also want to make sure that like you're not charging enough. You're also in these groups of all these people talking about raising your prices. But when it comes down to it, you've got to feed your family. You've got to do what works for you, which, nobody that's sane would give you a hard time about doing that. So like, you've got to do what works for you. I do want to talk real quick. You were talking about why, that struggle of comparing yourself to other people in your town. Why would they hire anybody else? And whenever I realized what the difference was between me and somebody else was just me. Like when I realized that, like that's when I just got comfortable not paying attention to what everybody else was doing. And yes, I pay attention to what other people are doing, but like it doesn't affect what I'm going to do. And if they are in a meeting with me and don't want to book me because of the price or whatever, they don't catch my vibe, they don't enjoy what we're talking about, they're not the right fit for me. And there's this freedom that comes with knowing, hey, I know that this is my, as Ray Roman will say, his happy price. This is how much I need to get to make a wedding film. If they're willing to pay that and they're vibing on your style and on you, that's when you hit that really sweet spot. And that doesn't just happen in 2012 when you started. That's starting to happen 4 years in. And once you become full-time and you start really analyzing and looking at who your ideal couple is and, meeting with Dave at Forestry and like really starting to hone in on like who you like. And it just takes shooting for a few years to know who you like shooting for. Like some people don't want to charge more than $2,500 for a wedding. They want like really, simple weddings that are, and it's great. Like that's cool. Power to you. I don't think that there's enough said on the forums or in front of people that are like, it's all about just always raising your prices. Like, you always should be raising your prices, but like, if you're in your happy spot, if you're filming 30 weddings a year for $2,000 a piece and you're making 60 grand and you're happy as can be, that's great. You've won. You're there. And so, but like, back to the branding with yourself as your brand, if you're a boutique brand, or, like Nick and Jen at Wild Oak, the more you can put yourself out there as, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we love to do, you're going to start attracting more and more people that by the time they have their meeting with you, and you might talk about that, but like, by the time people come in to meet with me, they know who I am. They've worked with me with friends of theirs that were brides, or gotten referrals, have been following us on Instagram, have seen our story. Tell me about that. What's that look like for you, or how'd that transition for you in that time frame when you started raising your prices and going full time?
So, how I will say that whenever I went full time, I think whenever I left my full time job, I still had a backlog of like 8 weddings. And so I was still kind of working. And then, anytime you have a transition period, and I left in the summer before my kid had started kindergarten, and we were in a new house, and it was just, it was a tough transition period after I left. And so I had all these, hey, I had 8 videos, and, I can get all that done in a month now, like, I just had all these ideas, and it really, with what I had coming up and everything with that, I think it was either February of March 2018 whenever I officially had no backlog. And that was the first time, I think, since like May of 2015 that I had not had a backlog. And I will say, when it has come to us raising our prices, when it has come to us booking more weddings that we want to do and that kind of stuff, I will say that, in my opinion, for us, the speed and how we get stuff back is one of the number one determining factors in us helping book more. Now, instead of me, close to 6 months, what I was, now I'm in the 4 to 6 week range, to get stuff back. And of course, I'm still telling them 4 months. So whenever they get this email at 4 weeks, they're like, holy cow, they're done already. I think that is a really big one. Another thing, last fall, 2017, my wife and I went to the Venture Workshop, which is put on by White and Reverie, Forestry, Jay Worsley, Seth Dunlop, and some other people. I think Matt Johnson is going to be at the one in November up here as well. But one of the things that like White and Reverie said that they did is, for their weddings for a while, whenever they were trying to build networking kind of stuff, is they would take shots of the makeup artist doing makeup, not just her hands, on the eyes. They would actually film the makeup and then put together a 15-second clip, 5 or 6 clips, setting it to some royalty-free music, from Artlist or Soundstripe or something like that, and then sending it to them and saying, here, have fun, blow this up on your social media, whatever. And so we have started doing that for, we try to do it for every wedding, for some vendor, and just hey, thank you for your hard work on this wedding. Here's a little clip, enjoy. And I mean, it takes me not even an hour, not even 30 minutes to put together 5 clips and color it and get it all ready and send it out, to somebody. And I think that has also helped us kind of just given us some credibility, within the industry again. And we really are pushing a service first thing with our brand and our business, where we want to serve our couples, but we also want to serve the people that we're working with as well.
Totally. And that the mojo that comes with that, you never know what it's going to do for you. And I think that a lot of us are so short-term thinking that like it didn't make us money right now, or by providing a 1-minute Instagram teaser on Monday after the wedding or on the day of the wedding or whatever, like you might not get paid to do that for a year of giving people an Instagram teaser for free. But a year later, whenever Jimmy and Susie come to you and say, hey, we want to make sure we have that Instagram teaser, how much is that? You can say, oh, it's $500, you know, we'll throw it in there for free, or oh, we'll do it for a couple $100. But like, you can start turning those things into money on top of it too. But the mojo that comes from being fast, like you're saying, and not having such a backlog, you know, that really can help you do your branding the correct way for sure.
Right. Another thing that I think has really helped us this year is we have started doing same day edits on the wedding day. And I mean, we didn't tell the couples that we were doing this, you know, I just find time to edit kind of throughout the day. Now I've gotten it down where, you know, I can put it together fairly quickly. It seems to be the longest part of the process is actually downloading clips off of my card, you know, onto my computer, onto the day. But we have had such great success and hyping up the couple and hyping up people around them. And I can't tell you, we've done it for a majority of our weddings this year, minus a couple for just certain circumstances. But again, we didn't promise it to them. And after that, I know of 5 that have either looked at me or looked at my wife afterwards and said, "We are so thankful we got you. You are the best money that we spent on our wedding day." Because we gave them this gift, you know, on their day. And I think it's kind of a combination of doing stuff for other vendors, being quick, and then we started doing these same day edits. And I will say at the beginning of 2018, we were charging $3,000. And then after we got to, I think, 10 for the year, for next year, for 2018, after we hit our 10 mark, then we steadily, now every couple are raising our prices. So I went from $3,000 to $3,200 to $3,500. Now I'm sitting for my middle package at $3,800, and our top package has gone up accordingly, and our top package is $5,000. And because of all this stuff that we've done, earlier this week I booked a package, my highest ever, you know, base price package of $5,000, which just I'm ecstatic about. And for 2019, when I include all of our pricing, you know, that we have together and everything, you know, we're averaging $3,600, and that keeps, you know, inching up, you know, average higher and higher per wedding with everyone that I book now.
Exactly. And that's huge. Kudos to you. Like getting to that $5,000 mark, I think so. Like, I think that a lot of us, it's like if we could get to $5,000 in a wedding, like we've arrived, you know, and it's like you hear all these things about like how to make $5,000 on a wedding film. What all does that include? The $5,000 package you just sold, what does that include?
So we did a while ago, we did a very scientific Facebook or Instagram poll. And I asked, what's more important to you? I was specifically asking brides, but you know, we got other people to respond, but what's more important to you? A longer film or more time covered on the wedding day? Okay. Overwhelmingly, the brides who had not gotten married yet, like 90% of them said more time on the wedding day. Okay. The ones that said a longer video were mostly other wedding professionals. So people that kind of understand and know what we do. And so my wife and I kind of took that, and so our biggest differences, and I know you and I kind of differ a little bit on philosophy of pricing, and that's totally okay. My wife and I are rather up until we maybe get up to, you know, consistently being at 5,000 or more than that, you know, then maybe we'll readjust and reshift our pricing models and that kind of stuff. But we're kind of I want to charge a premium price that we're good with right now and basically give you everything, you know, cause I kind of don't want to deal with, you know, the upselling or trying to, you know, like that's not in my DNA. Someone like you, that you are good at doing that kind of stuff, it works for you. But for me, I've never felt really comfortable kind of doing that. So right now our $5,000 package, and I know for some people probably on like the East Coast or West Coast that are charging a ton of money, you're going to faint when I tell you all this stuff. But our top package now, 5,000, includes 12 hours on the wedding day, just a 7-minute film. And then Jen and I will be there. It includes their ceremony. It includes their toasts. We have now added the same day edit as a part of our package. And now I love doing the meetings and telling the couples, hey, we offer this premium service. It's a same day edit in it. And I just get really big. Like, that's so cool. It's a great selling point. And then we have started doing like a getting ready edit and a reception edit. So we're kind of including all of the raw footage from the wedding day, but in a format where they can actually sit down and watch it. So that's our top one. And then our middle package, it's the exact same thing, except 8 hours in a 5-minute film.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I think the thing to look at, and I think that we all get so focused on what everybody else is doing, especially with Facebook groups and forums. It's like if you're not going a la carte, you're doing it wrong, or if you're not doing packages, you're doing it wrong, or if you're charging for a ceremony, you're doing it wrong. You've got to do what works for you and what you, in your truth, feel is best for your company and your brides. If you don't feel comfortable saying, I'm going to charge you, $500 more for a same day edit, you'd rather just include it in the package, go for that. Or if you're wanting to reach people and say, hey, the starting price, is $3,000, but most likely you're going to want to add a few things, and then they end up getting to $5,000, whatever, it's totally, I think that we all get so focused on each other, the video world, that we forget, like, what will help these brides? How can we best take care of them? Because I don't get paid by other videographers. I get paid by brides. I get referrals from other videographers, but I want my bride at the end of the day to be a fan of Redeemed Productions. I want the vendors to be a fan, and I don't want vendors saying, oh, well, they're really expensive and you don't get anything, or, oh, they always try to upsell you, or, oh, I want, when people are talking about me, to be talking about how great of a customer service we have, pointing people in our direction. And I think that each person has to do what works for them when it comes to the packages. And so for $5,000, some of the people might be like, holy crap, that's so much stuff in there for $5,000. And some people might be like, whoa, I would do that for $5,000. I would do that for $3,000 or whatever. And so you've just got to find your truth, what makes you happy, what you're willing to do the work for, and always be willing to adjust.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing that whenever we look in our video groups and people are saying, oh, you need to charge more or whatever, I live in Wichita, Kansas, which is one of the cheapest places to live in the country. When we're the biggest city in Kansas, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the cheapest places to live. Someone who's in New York, or someone that's in anywhere in California, actually, West Coast or, East Coast, really, these people need to charge to make the same amount of profit or whatever. They need to charge $3,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 for the money to be the same. And so where I live, that's a lot of money.
It's a ton of money.
I mean, it's a lot of money,
yes.
regardless. But I'm just saying, what I'm taking home, and I'm able to, actually, spend and save, and in all my expenses. I mean, I might be better off than some other people that are actually charging me more, just depending on where we live.
I will say this too, $5,000 kind of seems like the peak, if we can get there, we're officially, and maybe that's just me and what I've been, taught to look at, but the first $5,000 wedding I did, I just thought I was going to wet my pants. I was so excited. I couldn't believe somebody would be willing to pay me that. And as I look at other, videographers and what they're doing and what they're charging, there are so many people that are way better than me at what I do that are charging way less because they're just newer. They don't have the contacts. They don't have the referrals. They haven't built a brand quite yet. And my encouragement to people listening to this is that it is a process. It takes time. It doesn't, there's some people that just blow up and boom, they're able to charge a lot. But most people, it is a slow and steady build over time, brick by brick, layer by layer, until, I'm 12 years into this and averaging $6,700 a wedding film for 2018 and a little over $7,000 for 2019. But it's 6 years in, where you were at, I was charging $3,500. So like you're further ahead than me, but you know, people would look and say, oh, well, he's charging this. And it's like, well, yes, but the reason that I'm charging what I'm charging is because I've worked my butt off for over a decade, slowly, steadily building a high quality business that has great referrals, that networks really well, that connects really well, that takes care of brides. We have fans of ours, once they're done with their wedding film, texting me saying, you made my wedding day better. We love you. You're our family now. And like, that's my encouragement to people listening, is like, it doesn't just happen overnight. Take your time. You're not going to know it all in year 1 or year 2, but always be willing to navigate the waters, always be willing to make adjustments, be willing to try something new or raise your price a little bit on this thing, or, you know, really looking at your business and saying, hey, this is the great time of the year at the end of the year to be like, in 2019, I want to shoot 30 weddings at the most, and I want to average $3,500. If I do that, I'll be making over $100,000 next year. Or, you know, this year I've done this many weddings. I'm realizing that this much stuff in these packages, it's too much stuff in there. I'm going to pull some of this out and charge the same amount, but I'm going to be giving myself a raise because I have more time. But always be looking at that. And so, anyway, wrapping that whole kind of conversation up, you've gone from basically a free wedding 6 years ago to now a $5,000 wedding booked, and continuing to raise that price. And like you said, you're not even aiming at the high-end market. You're aiming at those romantic love kind of people that just, really want that love story told. And it's not so much about the flowers as it is about like this adventurous love. You're traveling different places. You're going all over like your business is starting to really grow. And it's fun for me to watch, just knowing you for a couple of years, like what you've transitioned your business into, and I'm excited to see where it goes. What are you looking forward to in 2019? Are you going to be continuing the price raise? Where are you at on your bookings?
Well, okay. So, right now for 2019, we are at 16 weddings, which, I think I was in March of 18 before I had 16 for 2018. It's definitely been, I think we are seeing again the payoff of how we've kind of shifted in how we do things and how we treat other people and how fast we edit and the same day edits and all that stuff. I think we're starting to see our hard work pay off. And so I know that our first goal for the year is to hit 20. And then we're probably going to keep our prices where they are now. Our top package is at 5, and then our middle package is at 38. I have a base package that purposefully no one books, but that's just to kind of get people in the door so we can have a conversation, right? I think probably once we hit 20, we might do a significant, jump in pricing. For a few months anyways, just to kind of see how that goes. And because we know that we're doing really good with 20. So, I'm talking, jump maybe $500 or $1,000, something like that. Probably $500 is probably a good significant jump. And then just kind of see how all that goes and, kind of go from there. And if we raise it 500 and we continue to book, then after, if 3 people or 4 people like book those instantly at that price point, then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to raise it $500 again. And you kind of wait for that sweet spot of the price and the kind of the bookings where they kind of even out.
And I think one thing to note right here is like, you have been building this brand. Your Instagram is awesome. If people haven't checked out your Instagram at Wild Oak Films, like they need to check it out because you've done a really good job with the vertical videos, with the consistency and staying in front of people, and it is paying off. And to have 18, you said 18 weddings booked, 16 weddings booked next year, like the business owner and me is screaming like, raise them $1,000, raise them $1,500, because if you're wanting to get to 25, 28 weddings, that's only 10 weddings you have to book in the next 15 months to and what's fun about your spot in your business 5-6 years in is when I started to see that tip and I did 51 weddings, which was a big no-no, but there are at that point, there's so much momentum going in your favor that like as soon as all these vendors you've worked with that you've taken good care of have a bride that says, well, do you know a videographer? Oh, you got to check Nick and Jen with, and you've just done this great job of getting this flywheel turning that like what we've done with Redeemed is we've slowly, we moved after doing 53 weddings down to 39 weddings to this year to 29 weddings and trying to get down to like 25, but have significantly raised those prices because we're wanting to keep that quality. And it's just fun to watch you. I'm excited to see how your 2019 goes. Just going to be raking it in, and what's funny though is like the people don't see year 1 and 2 where you're charging nothing and you're getting nothing and you're working your butt off as a second job. And hopefully this is an encouragement to people, for them to say, you know what, I just got to pay my dues. I've got to take my time, got to build this thing and keep growing it. So it's really cool to see that.
Right. There's a reason, as we're really trying to wrap up, there's a reason that people that have been in this business for a longer time are usually more successful financially. And it's because like you're saying, we learned what not to do early, which kind of stinks. And if people are teaching, you need to listen if you're kind of new at this, because for whatever reason, we all learn the best by messing up and we learn not how to do something. So, take advice of other people and just keep with it and be communicative. If you're kind of doing what I was doing, where you have another full-time job and you're working this and you can't, make that 4-week, 6-week, 8-week deadline, and it's taking you 3 and 4 months, continue to grind that out and continue to do that. My advice to you would be always be communicating with your couples so that they know what to expect. If you're letting them know, hey, week after the wedding, hey, it's taking me 4 months to edit this. I'll keep, and then every month, hey, I'm letting you know I'm getting there. It's still going to be a couple more months or whatever. But I think that those kind of things, being communicative with your couples and letting them know, networking with other couples, and then maybe, doing something to wow your clients. You can't do a full same day edit. Okay, then by full same day, I mean, mine are like a minute and a half long with no music at all. It's just the couple, just some pretty shots from the day. But you can't do that. Okay, we'll take 3 clips and you film everything in slow motion, put them in slow motion. It's a 20-second loop and you just show it to, they will freak out, and just doing something simple like that can really, maybe help you build your business and build your brand. But yeah, the slow and steady, I know we like the here and, we want it right now, but, you put the work in now, you're going to see it pay off in years 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 if you continue to just work hard and just do it, which is something that I'm really now starting to experience. And I know that John has experienced, in the last, really couple years of all of his hard work from previous years really, really paying off. So work hard, do it, and you'll get there. You'll get there.
Well, I think it's about time for us to wrap this thing up. Nick, thank you for letting me interview you today. For those of you listening, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, youtube.com/howtofilmweddings, and we will see you in the next podcast.